Hey everyone, welcome back to my Earth Friendly Kitchen. I'm Maria, your host, and today is a very unique episode. So my husband and I's anniversary is next weekend, but we took a weekend this weekend because this is when we had childcare available for our daughter. We're staying in the beautiful post cabins in the Catskills, and we just love it, and it's very, very unique. It's like a little tiny home, and we love it. So obviously our kitchen is not the same as what I'm used to, a 5-burner gas oven with all of my tools and all of my utensils. But we wanted to showcase the fact that you can have a really delicious, beautiful meal even with very minimal accessories, a 2-burner flat top stove, and you'll see how we've had to kind of flex since we've been here with the tools. So we're going to make our anniversary dinner tonight, and it's going to be steak and scallops with mashed potatoes and sauteed spinach. So originally I was going to be doing baked potatoes, but when we got here, we realized we didn't have an oven or a toaster oven or a microwave. And that's okay, right? We flex. So instead we're going to do mashed potatoes because I do have a pot. So that's the first thing we're going to do is get ready. And we're going to put the potatoes in the pot so that they can get cooking. So I just have 2 regular baking potatoes here. And I'm going to cut them up. And I'm going to cut them up into kind of smallish pieces. Now, this does have the skin on it because I don't have a peeler. But I'm just going to kind of work my way around and just kind of trim off as much of that skin as I can, just because we don't really like super chunky mashed potatoes. We're very creamy people and the skin makes it chunky. But I am going to put that in a bag, put it in the fridge, save it for when I get home to compost, because we're out here kind of in the woods. We don't want to throw any food out because there's potential predators like bears and whatnot that you get when you're in the woods. So you want to be safe and not throw any food out like that. So this won't go to waste, this extra potato peel. So we will take it home. We're pretty good like that. Like when we travel, especially if we do a lot of road trips, which this is about 2 hours from our house, 2.5 hours from our home. When we do road trips, we're very aware of the environmental impact. Obviously, very on brand for us. And so, we try to reduce our waste. We try to eat, in the place that we are in when we can. Obviously, we're kind of in a rural town, so there's not a whole lot of options for dining anyway. But we wanted to just kind of be, on our own, secluded, out here, which is great. So we brought our meals. We're only here for 2 nights, so it's not like we had to bring a whole, suitcase full of food or anything like that. So this is going to be, and I was like, should we film? Should we not film? Like, this weekend, I was like, we kind of, wanted to focus on us, but, John and I, did you guys ever know my husband's name is John? John and I, just felt like we really do love, like, sharing this with you guys, and we wanted to show that, again, you don't have to have a big old kitchen or, fancy equipment and everything. You just, work with what you got. And that's enough. That's all you need. Just a little bit of tools. So, all right. I'm just keep chopping these up. Now, we're going to be sauteing the spinach with some garlic and shallots. And we're going to be using some sour cream, which I have brought with me for the baked potatoes. We're going to throw them in the mashed potatoes to give them that extra creaminess, because usually people will put milk in their mashed potatoes, but we don't drink milk really. At least me and my husband don't. My daughter does, but and so we didn't bring any because we didn't bring any for like our coffee or anything like that. Well, this is much easier to do it this way. And so we're going to be using the sour cream for that creaminess. So there's one potato like that. And then I wonder if we cut it the other way, if it would be easier. Those are the kinds of things that you wonder, like when you're out and about, what you might miss from a kitchen. And you never thought a peeler would be one of them. And you could totally leave the skins on. If you do mashed potatoes, I've had in restaurants where they have like rustic mashed potatoes where they leave the skin on. They're usually a little bit chunkier of a bite, and that's okay too. It's just not our preference, you know? So that's why we're taking all the skins off and kind of taking the time here. So I wonder if you guys have ever taken a trip like this where you cook your own meals, you know, in here. We would have even probably used the fire pit that they have outside to cook the steaks on, but it's actually really cold outside right now, and we're expected to have a huge snowstorm tonight. I wouldn't say huge, but pretty big snowstorm. We're going to get about 5 inches or so is what they're predicting while we're here. So we just, you know, wanted to stay in, stay warm, and stay cozy. We've been watching a lot of movies. My husband's been working on his new camera that he has, which he's using right now. And it's just been a lot of fun just spending time. You know, we cherish these moments that we get to reconnect from, you know, busy lives and raising a toddler and our jobs and just, you know, life. So we really cherish the ability to just kind of get away. And I shout out to my sister and brother-in-law for taking our little girl this weekend so that we could have this time. It's nice to have that support when we can. And it's funny because we would have gone out if, you know, you would think like, well, why didn't you go for your actual anniversary? Well, first of all, our anniversary is February 15th. And so Valentine's Day is the 14th, which means everything is more expensive that weekend. But then also my sister's and her husband's anniversary is the 17th. So they usually go and do something for their anniversary as well. So we're actually going to be watching their son next weekend while they have a little time for themselves too. All right, so I'm just covering the potatoes just enough so that they have water over them. And I'm going to be salting them as well. I did bring a few spices with me knowing we'd be cooking. So just going to salt. Now you don't want to salt it as much as you would a pasta because the potatoes, pasta you rinse, you drain, right? You drain the water out. Potatoes, they soak up a whole lot more of that water, and so that means they're going to soak up a whole lot more of that salt. So you want to salt them to season, but you don't want to be super liberal like you normally would for like pasta. So, all right, so we're just going to put our potato peels. Oh, I will get those out. I for just mind throwing things in the garbage. I will be getting those out to compost at home. I'm not a liar, I promise you that. Just trying to clear my station here. So now we're going to take our steaks. Now these steaks are a petite sirloin. So when you think about, like, they're very similar to filet mignon. So I love them because they're actually a more cheaper option than a filet would be. And I just think, you know, they taste just as good. You season them up just the same. And so, I don't know, I like them. I prefer them as far as cost goes when it comes to steaks. And, you know, I just think it's a nice substitute, frugal substitute, you know, when you are, you know, choosing your meals. Because you can have an elevated dish and it not cost a whole lot of money. Now, I will tell you, scallops are expensive, right? And that is universal. It's just one of those things, whether you buy them at home or in the restaurants, they are always going to be more expensive. It's an expensive fish. But if you wanted to do like a surf and turf, you don't have to do scallops. You could do shrimp. You could do lobster. You could do, well, lobster's pretty expensive too, but like baby lobsters are a lot not as expensive. Or langoustines, you know, things. You want to see what the options are that works best for you. You can still have a really delicious, beautiful dish. So I'm just going to salt these pretty liberally because this kosher salt is going to melt into the steak and just really season it very nicely. Okay, on both sides. And we're going to let this rest, okay, for now. And then we're also going to salt and season our scallops. And these are jumbo sea scallops. I like the big ones because they sear really well. They do really good for this type of meal, and I just like to rinse out the juices that they've been sitting in because, you know, it could be a little bit extra salty, you know, salty like the sea. Okay. Just like that. Nice, beautiful, plump scallops. And again, I'm also going to salt these a little bit in that way. And we're also going to do a little bit of pepper on these scallops. And we're going to sear these in the beef fat after we're done searing the steaks. So I'm just going to get those all together. Okay, and we're going to let all of those rest with our proteins over here while we get everything else together. So then we're going to get the rest of our mise en place. So this bag, you probably see me fighting with it so far, is spinach. I got a big old thing of spinach at home. We didn't need that much for just the two of us. I washed it, I rinsed it, and I put it in this bag to bring with us. So we're going to be sauteing that up with some shallots and some garlic. So we're going to take about 4 cloves of garlic and 1 nice medium shallot. So we're just going to do it like you normally would. Now, how cool that this place is pretty equipped. I mean, I think that they really set you up to, you know, do your own cooking here and really just kind of be set apart and, you know, self-sustainable, which I love. Just FYI, I'm not partnered with, you know, the place. I'm not being sponsored by them or paid by them. This is just, you know, my honest opinion. We've had a really nice time since we've been here, and I think that anybody who, you know, especially likes to cook for themselves at home, this would be a great change from like going to like a traditional, I don't know, like home, like a hotel or something, right? Where you could actually like, you know, do your own thing and not worry about, you know, room service or whatnot. Just really unplug and get away. So, but we've had a really nice time so far since we've been here, and it is beautiful up here. You would think like, oh, like don't we see, you know, woods behind your house, you know, in your videos? And it's like, yes, we do. We do have woods behind our house, and we do like the woods. And you know, you would think like, oh, why wouldn't you go to the beach? Well, because it's 20 degrees outside, right? And you know, sure, the beach is nice even in the weather, but it's a lot nicer in the spring. So, you know, maybe we'll find a place like that out there. So just our normal type of chop for our garlic. And then we're going to run it sideways again so that we can get a nice fine dice here. Okay. Alright. Because we want to make sure it's nice even bites with the spinach, because the spinach is going to wilt up pretty good, and you don't want, you know, big chunks of garlic. Well, like we always say, we don't mind, but you might mind. Okay? And then the shallots we're going to cut up into just strips. So we're going to put this, and we'll do the outside. Take this layer off. This is just a nice small shallot that I'm going to be peeling here, if it lets me. It's always the shallots, guys. Always the onions, right? In general, I feel like with the peeling. Likes to fight me. Not today, Satan. Not today. Alright. So we got everything out there. And we're just going to cut it into thin strips. Okay. I was very pleasantly pleased to see at least the basics of a kitchen, okay, setup here, you know, with the utensils and whatnot. Was really, really something I was not anticipating, which was great. I was thinking I was going to have to bring all my utensils, but then I looked it up online, saw what they had to offer, and pretty cool. All right. So this is all we're going to use for the spinach. This is a very simple but elevated meal. The mashed potatoes are cooking. The water's coming up to a boil. We're going to be cooking those until they're like fork tender. Really, because then you want to be able to mash them, right? You want to be able to mash the potatoes. And then that's it. Everything else is going to end up being pretty quick. So also, look how cool this is. Olive oil packets to help people cook. Because yesterday we made our spicy tuna tostadas. I believe you've probably seen that video already. If you haven't, go look at it. It's a great video. It's a great meal. And so I have my sesame oil, but I didn't have any olive oil, so I was just going to use butter for everything. But how awesome. It's like a single serving olive oil packets, which I'm not a super user of a lot of single-use products, but for something like that, when you're on the go, and that's pretty cool that they offer that. All right, now I'm going to turn this on to about a medium to high heat. Now, this is an electric stove. I'm not used to an electric stove. I'm used to a gas stove. I've been cooking on gas stoves for a really long time. But you flex, right? You work with what you got. You might not always have access to a gas stove. And a lot of people use electric stoves, which is totally, fine. That's what they have. That's what they build houses with. And they're, good options. So I'm going to have to really test, my heat here, my heat source, to make sure I have enough heat to get the cook on the steak that I want, because that's, obviously very important. I can see, the bubbles and stuff happening here with the mashed potatoes, but I have to really kind of watch. And obviously it also takes a little bit longer for this to heat up, because of the electricity, takes a little bit longer for that pan to warm up. So that's a little bit of a difference that I'm not used to, that I forgot about with an electric stovetop versus a gas stove, because I'm just not, used to just turn it on the fire and it heats up really fast. Also, my pots and pans heat up very fast. I have the hex-clad pots, which just heat up so quickly and so evenly and just really, really nicely with that. So we're just going to watch that. So now that the salt is kind of melting in, I'm going to add my other seasonings to the steak here. So I'm going to add some onion powder and some garlic powder and some pepper. White pepper I have here. That's what I grabbed. Okay, and then we're going to flip. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You want to season both sides of your meat, right? Because seasonings come off, right? You want to make sure that you get a good flavor on there. It really sears it in. So garlic powder, onion powder, the salt's already on there, right? And then at the end, you might finish it with a little bit of sprinkle of salt, right? Just a little bit at the end to kind of brighten up the dish. A little bit of pepper. Okay, very good. And that's just mimicking the flavors, right? We're mimicking the flavors on our steak as we did with our mise en place over here with the garlic and the shallots. And then that's just going to carry through the dish. And the mashed potatoes will be fairly, basic salt, butter, cream. That's about it. So I'm just going to get this olive oil kind of all over the pan. And even though the fillets have, beef, they're pretty lean, so there's not a ton of fat, which is why we're adding some oil to the pan. Okay, now same scenario applies when you're heating up oil in any dish. You want to look to see where the ripples are, and I just kind of coated the pan so that way it's ready, and we can hear that sizzle already. Okay. Now we're doing the steak first because the steak is going to have to rest, right? Once it's cooked, you're going to want to rest it. And so that way it seals the juices all back into the steak. And, it's going to continue to cook a little bit. Now my husband and I, he prefers his steak where you could literally flip this now and put it on the plate and he would eat it. Like totally black and blue. But for, you know, most people you want it to be about medium rare or so, medium. And so once you stop cooking the steak, it is going to continue to cook a little bit, right? So you want to make sure you keep an eye on the temperature, you know, as much as you want to. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit because I forgot I had brought it up so that we can get the pan hot enough. You see now our potatoes are boiling, so that should be, you know, they're not going to take very long to cook because we cut them up pretty small. And, you know, this is a pretty quick dinner, even though it seems very elegant. You know, you're gonna have this done in under, you know, 40 minutes for a really nice, delicious dinner, from prep to sitting down at the table. We have a really beautiful bottle of wine that we're gonna open and share along with this meal. So we're excited. So look at that nice browning caramelization we got here. Kind of move this around so that it cooks a little bit more evenly. And I don't know if you've ever done the test for steak doneness, but you can do it by touching your fingers here like this, right? So this is the using the palm of your hand. If it's very squishy like this, it's usually rare. This is medium rare. This is medium well, right? And that's just how people, you know how to do it. Look at all this steam here. We're gonna turn on this vent. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty quiet, so that way we can get the steam out of here. But I wonder if other people are cooking such elevated dishes like we do on this channel. And then once the steak is done, like I said, we're gonna sear the scallops in the beef fat, which is going to be really just an added level of flavor. Ooh, it needs to open up a little bit. Looks like they both do. So we can get on the inside here. Perfect. All right. All right. Now you want to be careful. You don't want to push down too far, right? Because that'll like push the juices out. You don't want to like press, you know, your steak. So I'm just trying to get this so that it actually sears on the pan. But we're gonna leave this on for about another 30 seconds or so. Like I said, my husband and I like it, you know, medium rare to rare. So, and then we'll just let them sit and rest and continue to kind of cook on their own with the heat as they cease back up together. All right. So that's there. And that's there. Okay. So now I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit on this pan. And now I'm going to place the scallops onto the pan. Now you don't want to crowd the pan with scallops. You want to let them cook. Okay. And you don't want to mess with them too much, and they're not going to take very long, these scallops, to cook, because they are very gentle and delicate. So you don't want to overcook them. They can overcook very quickly. I'm talking like 90 seconds, you know, to 2 minutes on each side, and then they should be perfect. And the same thing applies, right? When you add heat to something, you take it off the heat, you let them rest, they continue to cook a little bit, and it's going to bring them up to, you know, full temp. So I'm just going to stir these potatoes a little bit and check them with a fork. Oh, that's a spoon. And see. No, not quite. So it goes in, but it gave me a lot of resistance. So we're still working on that. Okay. Now this is just a 2-burner stove and 2 pots. That's what we got to work with, right? But that's, you know, not everybody, like I said, has big ovens or big stove tops. And this is what you have. And I want my channel and my recipes to be as applicable to as many households as possible, because, you know, we're fortunate enough to have the kitchen that I have, right? That I love, that I can do what I love to do in that kitchen. But this is the reality for a lot of homes in America, that we have this very kind of, you know, simple setup, and that's okay. You can make elevated dishes just the same. So that's what I was hoping to accomplish by doing this meal here today. But you see how we had that really nice, beautiful brownie? That's not just like from the beef, right? That's the nice sear that we're getting on the scallops, and that's exactly what you want to see happen. And when you cut into them, it's just going to be like butter. Just, you can literally take a butter knife or just your fork and just cut through them, and they're going to be magnifique. Okay? Usually don't mess with them too much when they're in the pan, because then they won't get that beautiful sear. Okay? And they're going to turn a little bit more opaque than they will. That needs a little bit more time. A little bit more opaque than they are in here. So I don't know if you can tell the color difference. Obviously not just the browning, but the translucency of the scallop as well. There we go. Okay. Alright, so we're just going to put the rest on here. Maybe not the rest, but I think we can put the rest. Let's see. There we go. Not too crowded. Okay. Alright. And then when we're done with this, we'll just do a quick washout of the pan in the sink, and then we'll start over and we'll do the spinach, and then by the time that's all done, it'll just, everything will have time to rest and come back together, and we'll have put the mashed potatoes and everything together and be ready to serve it up. Nice beautiful dish. So you know, when you have limited space or limited, you know, limited area, limited pots and pans, then you have to do things in batches, right? And you would say, oh, Maria, don't you worry about this getting like cold. Well, you know, it possibly might bring the temperature down, but you know, that way it's ready to eat as soon as you come, you know, to the table, for one. For two, you know, it is still, like I said, it does have time to continue to cook as it comes off the heat. So it does still do that. You know, so it doesn't start to cool off right away, right, when you do that. And this is only going to take a few more minutes, you know, to put everything else together once we're done here. But it's all about timing. You know, you want to be very aware of your timing. All right. Another 60 seconds on that. I wonder if you guys have ever done this. Drop a comment in below, you know, if you've ever cooked not in your own kitchen, to see, you know, I want to hear your stories, which would be cool. This is not the first time I've cooked in not my kitchen. My husband and I, on our very first getaway, we actually did come to the Catskills, not in this location, but we came up to the Catskills together, and we stayed in this, rented like a apartment kind of, in like a bed and breakfast. And that was the first time I had ever really like cooked like a large meal for him. And I had made a vegan lasagna, a vegan eggplant lasagna, because I was vegan still at the time, and I wanted to show him like we could eat vegan and it'll be delicious and fine. And let me tell you, I cooked that lasagna, I don't even remember how long it took, like hours, if you remember? And it wasn't even done, really, by the time we sat down to eat. And we just laughed and laughed and laughed at that time. But, you know, that was many moons ago, and I've since become a much better cook, obviously, than that. He married me, didn't he? I must have cooked him some good meals. Alright. Okay. Very good. So that's that. Okay. So now I'm just going to turn the heat off here for a minute for safety purposes. And I'm going to rinse this pot out. Take the towel. Okay. Go right back to this top. Turn on the top here. We're going to add more olive oil into the pan. You know, just that quick little rinse has cooled down the pan. You know, not to the point where it's like super cold, but it's definitely cooled it down. So it's going to take another few minutes to bring this up to temp. But now is the time that we're going to bring up our shallots and garlic. Okay. And we are going to check our potatoes again. Now you want to try to get like one of the bigger potatoes if they're a little uneven. Oh, you see how nice and fast that is? That's just as soon as I stick my fork in there, it falls apart. So these potatoes are done. All right. So as this is cooking up, we're going to sweat these a little bit. And what's cool about this pot is it has these holes here, so you can just put the holes on the spout and dump your water out, which is really cool. Most pots have that, if you have a pot that like that. So we're just going to dump all this out. Now we're going to be doing this by hand because we don't have a masher, we don't have a ricer, right? So it is going to be a little bit more, I guess you should say, like mushy, or not mushy, probably chunkier than what we would expect at home, just because we don't have our normal equipment. But we're just going to mash that butter in there, get it nice and creamy as possible with the fork, and then I'm just gonna taste the potato a little bit to see how salty it is from the water. See if we need to add any salt, especially because we're gonna add cream as well. So I'm gonna put a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Okay, so if you saw, I added about 3 tablespoons of butter into the potatoes. And then, where's my sour cream? See how I took it out of my big old container and I brought this with me for baked potatoes, but now mashed potatoes. So I'm gonna put about a half a cup in for these 2 potatoes. And just cream that together. I'm going to mix. See how these are turning nice and brown here? Just garlic and onions. That's what you want to see. Like that. I'm just going to keep mixing until I get this nice smooth consistency that I want. And you could, at this point, you could add chives to this. You could add bacon bits. You can add, you know, cheese. Load them up. Load up these mashed potatoes. You know, we're just being very simple today. And oh my God, you guys! Wow, this is gonna go in the potatoes. I'm just gonna stir it up. But look at how creamy and delicious these look. Oh my God! Awesome. Awesome. Alright, I love when things come together even when they're not planned. Alright, and then I'm just going to add the spinach to this dish. Now this is not going to take a lot of time at all because spinach cooks up very quickly. It wilts very fast. And this is going to wind up cooking down to almost nothing. Add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. Probably about a quarter teaspoon each. And you already have the garlic and shallots in there. Everybody gets in that pool. Nobody escapes. Even here. Oh, the smells in here, guys. It smells so good. But look how fast that is. Already starting to come together and wilt down really beautifully with that garlic and shallots. And you don't have to have them completely wilted. You can leave them a little bit, you know, a little bit on the crunchy, like, you know, raw side, because that gives texture and it's not just like a bowl of mushed spinach, right? But look how fast that is. This is why it's the last thing to do, because this doesn't have to rest, right? But you still reserve that beautiful, bright color. Alright. And that's it. Okay. And this here. Okay. We're gonna get our mashed potatoes. And you could, you know, pipe this. You could, you know, put this in a piping bag or whatever you want to do to make it nice and fancy. But we are living rustically, having elegant dinners. And just to show you guys that it can be done in any kitchen that you're in at any time. We are grateful to be able to spend this time together, and we cannot wait to dig in to this dish right here. So I hope you guys try it at home. I hope you love it. I hope you just have a wonderful Valentine's Day weekend, and whatever you're celebrating, alone or with friends. We love you guys, and we hope to see you on the next one. Hit like and subscribe for more channels like this. See you later. Bye.